Yeah, I was actually it's funny because a couple months ago, I was in Toronto, at a restaurant, and I heard the song over the speakers. Like, it was just playing in the restaurant, and I was singing along, and I was like, "Why do I know this song?" And I was like,
Awesome. So this podcast is about you and your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
"Yeah,
Cool, cool. Are you originally from Toronto?
I am. I'm born and raised." I mean, I grew up 45 minutes outside of the city, but I'm definitely down there a lot more nowadays, so, yeah.
What was it like growing up there or outside of Toronto? Actually, was it just a pretty small town?
Um Yes and no.
Okay,
I mean, it is the suburbs, but, I went to
sure.
school in kind of like a bigger town, so that was like a 15-minute drive, but, I mean, Toronto's only 40 minutes from me, so, I mean, I was down there a lot, I'm still down there a lot, but, yeah, I mean, it's Toronto, it is what it is, and I feel like it has, like, this super hype around it, but, I mean, when you're from here, it's kind of just home, obviously.
Sure, sure. And how did you get into music?
I've been singing and writing music since I was 6 years old, so
Wow.
yeah, I was just kind of thrown into it, I think, by my parents maybe. They gave me a guitar, and I kind of just learned myself, and then, started writing songs and started kinda going into lessons, so I did vocal lessons, piano, guitar for a little bit, but I was never really into the theory part of things, and I feel like as a kid, it is hard to kind of stick to that, and that's definitely something I regret a lot of, but,
Mhm.
yeah, it just kinda stuck, and I was just doing it more so as, like, a hobby until I started high school, and then I joined the theater program, got into musical theater, went on to study musical theater in, New York City, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, then I came back to Toronto, and I've just really been focusing on my solo career as a recording artist.
Very cool. You said 6 years old, you got a guitar?
Yeah, that's when I
Wow.
started this whole
Are
journey.
are your parents musical at all? Or I'm interested to know
No.
why they would have bought you a guitar. Like that's I have a 5-year-old son who I would love. I mean, I got him drums and he has a piano and like I'm trying to push him that way, but to be actually want to play it, that's pretty impressive at
And like,
6.
I have 3 brothers, so and I'm the only girl in the family, so I think it was more so just trying to find something that could maybe differentiate myself from them or, because I'm
Older or younger?
1 older and 2 younger, so
Okay.
I'm kind of in the middle of the pack, and we're very close in age,
Mhm.
and so I was always really even though I was the second oldest, I definitely felt like I had something to prove, and
Okay.
I was super sporty growing up. We all played rep hockey, but I think for me, having this was just something for my own. So
Mhm.
maybe that was why.
And you said you started writing songs right away?
Yeah, seriously, right?
Wow.
Like my very first song I wrote when I was 6 years old, and I remember showing my parents, and I think like basically the next week I was in guitar lessons and singing lessons. It was just kind of like this.
Wow, that's awesome that they're so supportive too.
So supportive. I think they're honestly the biggest reason why I'm maybe still doing it to this day. I feel like I myself would have given up a long time ago, but yeah, definitely. My dad was super supportive from the very beginning, and for a long time, helped me financially through college, and that was like a huge blessing. And
Mhm.
even still kind of coming out of that and being like, I think I'm going to focus on being a songwriter and an artist and not really focus on Broadway. He was still like, "Yep, do it. Like this is what you're meant to be doing." So it's been awesome. It's been really great to have supportive parents.
That is really incredible. Instead of your parents being like, "Yeah, that's a cool like hobby you have. How about you like, go to school for business or something totally not what you want to do
Yeah,
in
no,
most sense."
I was more so that person being I was so interested in high school. I was just so interested in learning. Like I just loved science and I loved English, and there were so many other things I would love to be doing. And I mean, who knows where the future will go, and
Mhm.
maybe I could just be like a marine biologist and a singer on this like at the same time. But yeah, I mean,
Anything's possible.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, they were super supportive of like this one dream. And I do really feel like it is my purpose to be writing music. And I wouldn't really be happy doing anything else.
Mhm. So, how did your musical career kind of progress? Like from six, you're writing songs and you're showing them to your parents, but like, do you start playing in a band or playing with other people, playing coffee shops? Like as you get older, like what was from six to going to college for musical theater? Like, how do you get to there?
Yeah, it's definitely been a long kind of journey. But yeah, started writing music, and how it kind of started was my very first guitar teacher became like a sister to me. And to
Mhm.
this day, we actually recently, I have my Christmas album coming up, and she is kind of helping on the back end of that, which is pretty awesome. So it's like,
Wow, like
yeah,
full
it's like a
circle.
full circle. And she's out in BC, so it's not like we've seen each other for that long, but she's now um like a radio tracker, and she does all of like the PR side of things, so it's awesome. But yeah, kind of with her, she we just became super close, and I started doing shows with her at like bars. I was 6 or 7, literally going and singing like Avril Lavigne or Jewel in bars, which is
Whoa.
those are like the earliest days I can think of in terms of performing.
So you were performing in front of people right away.
Yes, but I had such a horrible, like, fear of performing, and to this day, it's, like, something that I struggle with, and I have to kind of, like, coach myself through every time I have a live performance. But it's really odd because I've done theater my whole life. Even as, like, a kid, I was doing local shows, and that was never, like, a problem. Playing a part was never a problem for me. I could go on stage and I felt super comfortable and was so excited to be on stage and performing in front of people. But when it came to like my own songs and just me on stage, it was like a whole different story. So yeah, and then it
You have to
kind
be a
of
lot more vulnerable. I mean, especially if
100%.
you're playing your own songs, not
Exactly.
only that, but if you're up there covering songs by yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're in a play or a musical, there's other people that may be the focus of what's happening at that moment, and maybe there's not as much pressure. If
Yeah, for
someone
sure.
screws up, you're like, well, it wasn't me. Like
For sure. And then just went to New York, studied, like I said, musical theater there. So we studied singing and dance and acting. And I was 100% the underdog in this entire situation because I didn't really have any formal training growing up, like my Royal Conservatory, like none of that. I just applied, auditioned. I was like, if I get in, I'll go. If I don't, I'm going to take the year off and really try and find what it is that I want to do. And I did get in and I went, and it was kind of crazy seeing the difference between where I was compared to my peers. They were just so in the loop with everything that had to do with Broadway, like dating back to the 1960s. And I'm just kind of like, I just love theater and I love performing. So I'm here just to like try and
right.
enjoy this. So it was very, very like eye-opening experience for me, and it taught me a lot and I learned a lot. And then I came home and I met my current producer and manager, and we've been working for 2.5 going on 3 years now. So
Wow.
been a long journey of just kind of like really focusing on finding my sound and honing my craft, and really just what makes me different as a female
Hmm.
pop artist compared to everything that's out there right now.
Hmm.
And now,
Prior, sorry, go
sorry,
ahead. No,
and
you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and now, kind of that like live shows are coming back. I'm gonna be gearing up for hopefully a heavier live show in 2022.
Exciting. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Did you join like a musical or a musical theater class towards the end of high school? Like what drew you to musical theater and then pursuing that in college?
So I did, like I said, I did like local shows as a kid, kind of growing.
Hmm.
They were, I mean, it's like 6 to 12-year-olds in these plays, so it's just kind of like for fun, like a summer camp sort of vibe. And then in high school, we had a really, really great theater program, and we put on these huge productions, and people from who didn't even go to our school would come to watch them because they were just
Wow.
well known.
Mhm.
And you could only apply an audition when you were in high school. So my actual school went from JK to grade 12, so it was a very small school in general.
Mhm.
But yeah, everyone knew about the program, and I had watched the plays kind of growing up. And then once I was in grade 9, I auditioned, and yeah, I just fell in love with the community, to be honest. Everyone's so supportive, and I obviously love to sing and perform, and it was just great being able to be with like-minded people.
Mhm. And then applying for this school in New York, what was that process like? Did you send a video of yourself or did you have to go there and audition in person?
No, they actually did live auditions. So they would travel in throughout Canada, throughout the US.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I actually auditioned with my best friend, and this story is kind of funny because I met her when I was in grade 5,
Mhm.
and um, I remember the first time I walked up to her, I was like, "Do you want to sit with me?" And she was like, "No, thanks, though." And
Ouch.
oh, okay, but we quickly became best friends, and I'm not too sure if you're familiar. Do you remember agendas? In school, you would get like agendas and you would write down your
Oh,
homework.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so in our agenda, the first year of meeting her, we had both wrote down, when we grow up, you're gonna go to New York and study dance, and I'm gonna study singing. And we like signed each other's agendas, and it was just kind of like this goal of ours. And I guess it just kind of manifested into itself because we both ended up going to New York, and we lived together, and she studied dance and I studied singing. And yeah, that's
Wow.
I mean, we both auditioned for the same school, but she ended up choosing a different college to go to in New York.
But you guys lived together and did
Together,
the lived
did
the dream together? That's amazing.
that was awesome.
Do
It
you
was
still have that agenda?
I probably do. That's the thing, is I definitely do, somewhere probably in my home basement, but
Okay.
I should find that. That would be awesome.
That would be really cool to have. I mean, at least. So you go to school, then you graduate from school in New York, and you're like, yeah, I don't really feel like pursuing the Broadway thing, or you just kind of turned off to it. Like, how do you return back to Canada and pursue a career as a solo artist?
It was more so just like I still to this day would love to do Broadway, and hopefully that is like a goal of mine. In fact, I actually want to try eventually to really bring that to Toronto, because we do have such a great theater community here, and I just
Hmm.
feel like it's not being utilized properly. And we have fantastic theaters downtown that host these great touring companies, but we don't really throw our own shows. So that's definitely something that would, I think, Toronto should kind of invest in. But yeah, I feel like I don't know. I just kind of came back to Toronto one summer and was like started writing my songs again, and just fell in love with actually writing. And I just felt like at the time that's what I needed to start doing. So I kind of put the Broadway stuff on hold and decided to focus on writing and becoming my own artist.
That's amazing. And so you move back home and you just start writing your own songs. And what's the first thing you put out there to the world?
So I came back, I think it would have been 2017 or 18, and
Hmm.
um, but basically started writing for 3 or 4 months with my producer, and we kind of decided on one single and we put it out there, and it did well, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's a journey, like nothing just happens really overnight anymore. So in 2019, I actually decided to stop releasing music and really just take the year to build my catalog and really, really find my sound and how I can kind of like push the boundaries of genre. And that's really where my artistry lies. I just don't want to be this like plain Jane bubblegum pop artist. That's not who I am, and that's not really what my music's about. So I really took that year to try and find a way to like blend genres cohesively. And I feel like now it's been 2-ish years, and I've really like been able to do exactly that, and really just hone in on my craft.
So you spent what 2019 doing that? Were you hoping like 2020 was going to be like, all right, we're going to put a bunch of records out, we're going to play a bunch of shows? Like it
Yeah,
sounds like that kind of got well, obviously
I
knocked
was.
off track.
I actually was, and I had my first headlining show was at the Mod Club, and I mean, you're probably not familiar with it, but in Toronto, it actually is like famous for pretty much hosting all of Canadian artists as their first show. So like the weekend,
Wow.
yeah, the weekend had his very first show there. Um, Justin Bieber's performed there. Alessia Cara had her first show there. So a lot of Canadian
Wow.
artists have performed there, and it was my first headlining show. I'd been rehearsing with my band for months. I had this whole thing planned out, and then a week out from the show, I pretty much had to cancel because of COVID. So
Oh man, what a bummer.
oh yeah, I mean, it was devastating, but I mean, the whole thing was devastating for everyone. So
Sure. So
yeah.
these songs coming out now, I mean, like Issues is a more recent one, and then obviously we'll talk about the Christmas record, but were those songs that you had written during that 2019 year and just were releasing them because now it's like, okay, well, we're all stuck here anyway. I might as well continue the plan.
Yeah, well, 2020 was another year of just kind of writing, and I was still writing every single day. And I actually wrote issues in 2020, so that was more. It was a bit more fresh compared to
Okay.
the ones, but I still have those songs, and I'm still gearing up to release those. It's
Hmm.
just funny because I work really, really closely with my producer, and
Hmm.
we're constantly kind of revisiting these songs and reproducing them. So even though they've been sitting in the vault for like 2 years now, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air whenever we open them, and we kind of change things within the production or vocally, and it's awesome.
That's cool. And
Mhm.
you have a huge song or a huge feature on a song with Outer Space. How did that happen?
Oh, damn, that was a while ago. I'm trying to think, because I actually wrote that maybe like a year or two before it was released.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think they had approached me, and they were just looking for a top line, and I sent it to them, and they loved it, and they're like, we actually want you to sing on it. We're gonna run with it. And then I didn't really hear anything back from them for I want to say like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And then it came out, and I think it has like exceeded all of our expectations. It's been doing great, and yeah.
It's huge. I mean, it's at nearly 8 million plays on Spotify.
Yeah, I was actually it's funny because a couple months ago, I was in Toronto, at a restaurant, and I heard the song over the speakers. Like, it was just playing in the restaurant, and I was singing along, and I was like, "Why do I know this song?" And I was like,
Oh, yeah, I wrote it.
"No, seriously, what happened?" And then I was like, "Guys, this is my song." It was funny. It was like the first kind of, moment I've had like that, so it was funny.
That is really cool. Oh, so now this record you have coming out it's a Christmas record.
Yeah.
The first song you've put out is Nightmare Before Christmas,
Mhm.
which is kind of a darker, obviously, side to Christmas. Is that kind of how the record is set up? Or
Um,
tell me about the concept behind the Christmas album, when this all began.
yeah, so I had this idea coming into 2021. So I came into my first session with my manager, and we kind of do this every year where we're just like, all right, what's our goals? What do we want to accomplish this year? And I had said to him, I was like, I want to do a Christmas album. And he was super supportive right away and was like, yep, let's go. Let's start, because we know, time moves fast. If we're doing a whole album, we better start now, even though
Mhm.
Christmas had just pretty much happened.
So it's
Um,
still kind of fresh though, at least.
yeah, still fresh, but I mean, we had so the album is 9 songs, and we had all of the vocals done by, I wanna say, May. So
Mhm.
then pretty much June, July, August, we spent those 3 months producing every single song, and trying to produce Christmas music in the summer is pretty challenging.
I would imagine.
Like,
Not
it's
the vibe for Christmas.
yeah, I mean, it's so nice outside, and you're in a dark studio trying to like find inspiration to produce Christmas music. It's hard, but yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas. So that is the first single off of the album, and
Mhm.
the album's not fully dark and kind of heavy like this, but
Okay.
yeah, no, that wouldn't be a fun vibe for Christmas, but
Well, that's why I was curious. I was like, wow, this is gonna be a really dark Christmas album.
the thing is, like, like I said, I don't want to kind of just be your typical pop artist. I kind of want to keep the listeners guessing. So
Hmm.
with Nightmare Before Christmas, I had this concept in mind before I had even written it. And I was just like, I want to start the album off with this like tragic love story that kind of revolves around Christmas time and somehow incorporate that into this whole story of an album. And so it's actually the first song off of the album, and it's the first single. And yeah, I mean, the whole album itself is not like that. It kind of transitions very like fluidly throughout. So it does start a bit heavy, and we have Nightmare Before Christmas, the first song, and then it goes into the second track. It's called Scrooge, and it's an upbeat kind of pop punk vibe song, but really talks about kind of like seasonal depression and things that aren't typically talked about during this time of year. Being from Canada and Toronto, that's something that like we experience heavily is just, it's dark by 4:30 p.m. and
Hmm.
people have this horrible transition between summer and winter. And yeah, it's not as heavy production wise. It's actually very boppy and fun. But yeah, I just wanted to have a song on there that also spoke to the people that don't necessarily love Christmas time, and maybe they're affected by it because they've lost someone. There's so many different reasons, but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, then it goes into your like classic kind of Mariah Carey vibe, like fun and playful vibes. And I love those songs off the album as well. And I do a cover of Santa Baby as well, which is dope.
Oh, cool. That was my next question, was if you put any classic Christmas songs on the record.
Yeah, so there's 7 originals and 2 covers. I do Santa Baby, which is a rock version, which will be fun
Okay.
for people to experience. It's very much the same kind of vibe as Issues, which I think a lot of people loved that song. So when they listen
Hmm.
to the album, they're gonna really fall in love with Santa Baby. And then the outro is a acapella rendition of Silent Night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Acapella. What was that like doing that, recording that?
It was hard. It was a lot more challenging than I thought it was because we genuinely did it a cappella. So it's not like I sung to a track and then we just took the track out. Like I did all of it a cappella, and there's like these beautiful harmonies that we spent so much time on. And even though it might be like, it might seem like the simplest track on the album, it was actually probably the toughest to kind of get out there.
I would imagine. Yeah, it's just your voice, right? I mean, there's nothing to cover up anything.
Yeah, I mean, that song is special and really sentimental to me, and I felt like I needed to have that on the album because I was a super colicky baby, and my mom says the only song that would help me go to sleep or for me to calm down was Silent Night. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That is cool. And why'd you choose Santa Baby? Just like that one?
Um, yeah, I feel like I've always like sung it growing up, but I knew I wanted to kind of take it and spin it on its head and do something different and do something that, you haven't really heard. I mean, you've heard the jazzy version, you've heard the pop version, you've got the R&B versions, but never really heard like a straight kind of heavy rock version of Santa
Mhm.
Baby. So I'm really pumped for people to hear this one.
That is cool. When's the record coming out? Before Christmas?
November 24th. So we're
Oh, a
very
few
close.
weeks away, right? A couple weeks away.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
And were you able to reschedule that show you had, that headlining show?
We're still working on it. Obviously, people bought tickets, and we're hoping to get something solidified for early next year.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Very, very cool. And thank you so much, Dallas, for doing this. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah, I would say like I kind of say this all the time, but just keep going. Honestly, like for me, I know there can be a lot of moments of doubt, and this industry can really make you feel jaded, but just honestly keep going, keep practicing, do something every day that's really kind of pushing you to your dream.
Bringing it backward.